there's definitely something to be said for sustainable harvesting when you're harvesting things off the landscape. When you do harvest it, you know, take the time to not only, you know, to only harvest what you need, but also to use that, and to use that for as long as you can. This is essentially nature's lumber resource. And while, you know, you wouldn't throw away perfectly good 2x4s or dimensional lumber that you got at the lumber yard or the big box store, you know, think of the forest that way. So like this particular area is overgrown with a bunch of maples. They're just in here really tight. So this is where I like to go whenever I need poles to make tripods or what have you, just to kind of thin this out to give some of the trees a better chance of actually, you know, growing to their full capacity. So this is a bunch of broomstick size maples. That's easy for me to come in and grab what I need. Can't even tell that you put a dent in the forest. Just cut the stump all the way down to the ground if you can. And basically, you know, all you could need right here in this little patch, you know, just a 100 foot by 100 foot square of just overgrown maples. And this happens quite a bit in this area of the Adirondacks and a lot of other places as well. So this is a better choice for harvesting resources, and again, use those resources for as long as you possibly can. May not be dimensional lumber, but it's just as valuable, and it came from the same kind of thing. So something to think about. Should really have a gimbal for this, but you can see that maple stand in the back there, and I harvested one super long pole that I can make a tripod out of. Little bushcrafted sawhorse, and I'll keep using that until it rots away. I'll take the bark off of it eventually so it dries nicely, be nice and seasoned. It'll last a very, very long time. So everything comes from the forest. Take care of your Mother Earth. She'll take care of you. So I'm making these tripods for my Tipi poles so that I can treat those real quick. I want to show you a couple handy little kind of tips or tricks that I use for conserving cordage when I'm making lashings that are not meant for mountaineering. You know, I'm not hanging my body weight off of these. I'm just using them kind of structurally. I'd be comfortable laying on this type of a lash with my body weight, but you know, never hang your hammock higher than you're willing to fall kind of thing. But anyway, I'm gonna join these three poles together into a tripod. And I could do a traditional tripod lash, which takes a lot of cordage. I could do a 3-pole shear lash, which is a little quicker to tie, but still takes a lot of cordage. Or I could do just a simple cordage conservation lash for a tripod. And that starts with basically enough line, enough cordage to go around the poles twice. And then I'll tie a fisherman's loop in there. All right, so basically with your fisherman's, you're tying two opposing overhands. So I cross them over, take one tail and tie an overhand around the opposite leg. So make a loop, continue that loop around back through and pull it tight. I've basically tied an overhand around the opposite leg. Then I'll flip the whole thing around, take the other tail, tie that overhand around the opposite leg. So I'll make a loop and continue on around the same direction back through the loop. Now I've got my opposing overhands. This is also known as the necklace knot because you can tighten that up if you needed to. But that's just an overhand, a fisherman's loop, and it's 2 times as big as it needs to be to go around these poles. So I'll double it over like that. Slide that over the poles. I'll bring it down about 8 to 10 inches or so. And then what I like to do is take that to kind of take some of the slack out. I'll tighten that necklace knot by pulling the tails opposite each other. I've taken a lot of the slack out already with that. Then I'll stand those back up, kind of hold it in place. Once you have this at the height you want it, you're just going to either spin both outside poles once or just spin the center pole once. You got to kind of hold that steady. It gets a little tricky to manage, but it's pretty simple. And then I've got it part of the way there, and I just take it the rest of the way over. That tightens all that lashing. And then you've got a pretty decent tripod going there. If your fisherman's knot starts to loosen back up, then you just continue to spin it until you take all that slack out. But usually what happens is it gets captured and it's perfectly tight for what we need it for. All right. I'll set that up. And that's a pretty solid tripod right there. Now for the rest of the sawhorse, because I'm going to be doing Tipi poles on this, I'll set that inside and straighten this one back out, get the right height. Now for this, because my daughters like to play on this and hang on this, and I'm going to have some weight on this, I don't want this to actually come off, but I typically would have to use like a diagonal lash here. But a Cordage conservation lash that I can use for this type of situation is just to use an Arbor Knot with an extra turn. So really all that is again an overhand, but this time I'm doing an overhand stopper knot. I'm going to go around these two. I'm going to go around a second time. If I was just doing an Arbor Knot, I would go around once and tighten that up. Arbor Knot's also known as a jam knot, sometimes referred to as a Canadian jam knot. But if I come around a second time, I've kind of put a couple of wraps on there. Then I take the end with the overhand stopper and just tie an overhand knot around the other leg, kind of like I did on the fisherman's knot. Except that I've got an overhand stopper to keep it from coming back through. Now when I tighten that up, it'll pull those wraps tight, and that stopper will lock on itself, especially if you're using a bank line instead of the more slick paracord. But that makes a pretty solid junction right there for what I need. It keeps it from slipping off. I'll do the same thing over here real quick. I tie my overhand in first just to put the stopper there. And it kind of marks the end that I need to tie my other overhand on. Come around whatever I'm trying to lash twice. You could do more than that if you wanted. Then I'm going to take the end, the short end with the stopper knot in it already, and I'm going to tie an overhand around the other leg. Come around, come back through. Stopper knot is fairly close to the end there. Then I can tighten that down, and it'll lock everything in place nice and tight. This won't fall. And you know, the beauty of this kind of thing is, one, it conserves a lot of cordage, but cordage recovery is a lot easier when I want to take these down. If I grab the long tail of that Arbor Knot and pull it tight, it's going to get more and more tight. If I grab the opposite tail, which would have been the short end where the overhand was, I can loosen this and recover the cordage in no time. You know, but I want this tight because I'm going to use this for my Tipi poles. But that's some cordage conservation lashes that you can use to replace the tripod lash or the 3-pole shear lash. And in this case, a diagonal lash when you don't really need to use all that cordage. It's not something that you're going to be hanging body weight off the side of a mountain on. So good way to conserve your cordage. Really quick way to tie a lot of things together. got to kind of dust it off, get the dirt and dust off, and look for any high spots like that, so that when I come back in, I'm smoothing those out with the spot. Because those rough spots, the rough spots really, you know, take a chance of tearing your canvas. And if the poles are cleaner and dust free, then I'll be able to put my linseed oil on there a little better. I dusted off, you know, most of the dust and everything off of these poles, and obviously they've been peeled. And I took down any of the really high spots, because the high spots are going to take a chance of digging into your canvas and damaging the canvas on there. And these are untreated lodge poles, so I want to kind of treat these with something to kind of waterproof them a little bit better. So I'm using a combination of half boiled linseed oil and half turpentine. You could use any thinner, like a mineral spirits or whatever, what have you. So if there's any left over with this, I'm also going to use this same solution to maybe make an oil skin. We'll see what I've got time for, see what I've got left. I've also got a picnic table I've got to do with this, so I might not have any left. But that's what I'm doing now, is just giving them a nice heavy coat of this, and I'll let it sit until it cures for a couple of days probably. So unfortunately, as I kind of figured it was going to, it started sprinkling. It looks like it's about to rain, so I'm gonna have to take a bit of a rain delay, but the rain might knock away some of these bugs. But anyway, intermission till the rain passes, because I'm filming this on my phone and I don't exactly have a waterproof case, so be back when it's done. Hey everybody, this is Josh here, the Gray Bearded Green Beret, back for another installment of the Tipi series. As you can see, the weather's cleared up, so I'm ready to get some work done and get this Tipi up, hopefully today. I just swallowed a bug. I think I eat more bugs doing YouTube films or YouTube videos than anything else. Anyway, as you can see, the rain has stopped, but it did not take care of the bugs. There's bugs everywhere. Little punkies. I need to get out the punky dope because I'm kind of getting destroyed by these little buggers. But anyway, what I want to do today is get the poles set up, and with any luck, get this Tipi skin and get that set up. Before I get that Tipi skin though, I've got to build a ladder, because even though I'm 6'3", I'm still not quite tall enough to reach up to the top pin on this particular size Tipi. My Tipi's a 16-footer. So I need to put some streamers on the tripod because the wind direction plays a big factor. in how you run the smoke flaps to have your fire inside the teepee, which is really convenient. But that, you have to have some sort of wind indicator up there. Wind indicator up there. So I've got some turkey feathers that I'm going to kind of tie up there to kind of give me an indication of which way the wind's going. Get this tripod up, get the rest of the poles up. Then I'm going to have to build a ladder, and then after that I'll be able to actually skin the teepee, get a fire pit dug out, get some bedding. There's a lot of stuff that I got to do, but for now what I want to do is get those streamers made and try to get this tripod set up along with the rest of the poles. I also want to take a minute to tell you, if you're not already a member, a GB2 member, then you need to be. All right, discounts on gear, discounts on training all the time. Private social media platform on Discord, a couple live feeds, question and answer sessions every month. Just a lot of things going on with that. It's really, really valuable, and at only $7.99 a month, it pays for itself and then some within the first month. So it's kind of a no-brainer. So why are you not a GB2 member yet? This video brought to you by Wild Turkey. Not that kind of wild turkey. No, I've got some turkey feathers, wing feathers, that a turkey has graciously donated to the cause. These are some leftovers for where, you know, I'm hafting arrows and all that stuff. So they're gonna come in handy here. These I think I've already used before. They've got some artificial sinew on here, but what I'm gonna do is just tie these up real quick. Artificial sinew, get myself a little length of that and trim that off. Check out this knife. One of my favorite cases. I bought it because it has kind of that Nessmucky style blade with that trailing point. You know, it's just been really nice. I really like this case folder right here in the style of Nessmuck. So I'll cut myself a little length of that. Nobody outranks safety. What I'll do is tie kind of right up here to the end. I'll probably do like a common whipping knot. So to do that, let's see, I want it to come out the other side. So I'm going to start here. Take my little loop, pin that loop down, take this and wrap it around a few times. What I'm doing is wrapping right over top of that loop. You can see that loop's right here. And I've got a little bit of the tail of that loop coming out here, and I'm just wrapping around that. Go around that a few more times. So the common whipping knot is what you use to whip the ends of a rope to keep it from coming undone, to keep it from raveling. Get myself a few. And I need to leave myself quite a bit of length here. Let me back that up. I need to leave myself quite a bit of length here because I need to actually tie it to the tripod pole. So maybe I'll just go around a few times. That should do her. Now, I'll take the end that I was wrapping around, go right through that loop. So basically pull this other end to slide that loop down over that. Keep everything nice. Slide that loop down over that. And then it'll kind of pull that knot underneath, like so. Pulled it a little too far there. Like so. Now what I want to do is trim off that excess. Trimmed off that excess, and now it's just hanging and dangling. And what I'll do is to keep this from, you know, kind of protected from the weather, because it's going to be up there flapping in the breeze, I'm going to go ahead and cover that with some pitch glue. That pitch stick that I made, this is just a blend of pine pitch, some pine sap that's been boiled down, and I believe I mixed in some rabbit or deer poop in this to give it some texture, to give it some structure, a matrix to kind of hold on to. But I keep it on this stick and it dries, and all you have to do is heat it back up, and it's a natural glue. This is pretty common pitch glue. And then so I don't sit here, you know, wasting fuel on my lighter, I'm going to use just a little beeswax candle to keep the flame going. I'll light that, and then I can save the fuel in here. So candles as a lighter extender is a good idea. Then I can use that candle to kind of reheat that pitch glue and get it bubbling hot. Once it's bubbling hot, about to drip, then I'll just take that and apply it on that artificial sinew. It dries really fast, so you gotta be pretty quick. All right, she's going. And put it on there. Starting to get nice. And the whole side there I gotta do. There we go. Well, she's still a little bit warm and tacky. I kind of mash it on there. There we go. Clean that up a little. What I'm doing now is just kind of heating it, make it a little bit soft, a little bit tacky. Make sure it's not too hot. And just kind of smooth it out. There you go. I'll do that 2 more times. Looking at the rope here, let's just say that is unsatisfactory. Come on, man. Like, you can't have electrical tape on there and expect that that's going to keep it from unraveling, from coming apart. And this is just, I mean, oh, I almost threw up a little right there. These have to be fixed. So what I'm going to do to these is whip and dip them. So I'm going to use the common whipping knot again on these. I'm going to whip both ends of these, and then I'm actually going to dip it and some beeswax to kind of seal all of that. So that's the whipping and dipping technique for keeping the ends of your ropes from fraying. That's the word I wanted, fraying. All right, so I've got my flat pack stove going here, and I really like these because they pack down flat. They don't take any canisters, so if I don't actually need a stove because I have a fire for whatever other reason, then I don't have to worry about, you know, taking up space, and they don't weigh much at all. You can get these in titanium as well, but the flat pack stove has been great. I always have fuel all over the place. I don't have to carry canisters, renewable. Put this somewhere where you guys can kind of see what's going on. And I've got a can of beeswax here. I want to get this melting so that while I'm whipping it, you know, by the time it's done, with any luck, this will be melted. I could dip the ends in there really quick. So, got myself a little bit of tinder. Let's see what we got in here. All right, nice. So the Tinder Bundle is, I've got some yellow birch bark, and this looks like some aspen inner bark. I'm going to process that down a little bit, but it doesn't have to be too crazy. Just kind of get it out of that knot, break it up a little. Take that bark, put it right inside. I think about making it on this tinder bag so I can get all the good leavings and incorporate that into the Tinder Bundle. And because it's waxed, it's not going to get wet. It's sitting on the ground. All right, put that inside. Probably a lot more tinder than I actually need for this little guy, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. I've got some twigs on standby. Get this out of the way. Hit that quick. Get a little bit of fuel resources on top of that. Feel a little bit green, but I think they'll work still because they're pine. I'll get some in top for now. That'll burn down. I'll let that burn down, kind of establish a little mini coal bed before I put the beeswax on there, because I'm not using like the double boiler kind of thing. Feed a few in the front there. Get some of these bigger ones now. All right, I got some twigs burning now. So I'm gonna put my beeswax up there and get that melting. All right, so I'm gonna deal with this one first. I'm gonna show you that common whipping knot again. Kind of wild one there. So I make me a bite, you know, where the rope doesn't cross over itself. It's just a bite. And I'll put that on the end like that. So there's my bite laying right there. And I'm gonna leave this because I'm gonna cut all that off after I get done whipping it. I'm going to start wrapping around like so, keeping it really tight, really super tight. And I'm wrapping back up towards the end of that bite right there. And I'll probably go about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. That's plenty. And what I'll do is take and cut that off because that's extremely long. I don't need that much. So now I've got that end that I wrapped all the way up. Put it through that bite, like so. Then I'm gonna grab the opposite end and start pulling that back through. And it's gonna pull it, it's gonna pull this underneath here. Like that. Make sure that's nice and tight. Now I can trim these off. Cut this off. I'm dipping this in that hot wax. It's going to take a little time, but I'm trying to coat that bottom couple of inches. You can see the end of it is just soaked with that hot wax, and then that'll dry and it'll look kind of like a candle, you know. But I'm just kind of dipping it in there and then letting that cool, and that'll hold it pretty well. I'm gonna do the other side. So when I trimmed the end off, I accidentally cut the loop. Let me do that one more time. All right, back in the game. So as a general rule, you should not cut the whipping when you're trimming the end, because then you'll just have to do it again. Who knew? All right, we're getting somewhere now. It's kind of like making candles as this stuff cools. Just kind of swirling it around in there. Get a nice coating of wax on there. Just like making candles. Pretty happy with that. You know, I penetrated the fibers with that really hot melted wax, and then I've got a nice coating on the outside. And that's gonna cool. Gonna be a nice hard shell on there. A little early. Still a little warm right there. But that's what I'm going for. I whipped them, and then I dipped them. That'll keep them from. To tie these streamers on, what I did was just cut a small groove with a saw, you know, just to give it a recess to sit in. And then I tied it on with an arbor knot, so it's just kind of hanging on that sinew and flapping in the breeze. And this one's a little longer because this is the door pole, which is quite a bit further away from the other ones. So I'll show you what this looks like. This is just an arbor knot or a jam knot. Let me see if I can show you this a little closer. All right, so there's my saw kerf. And then I've got just an arbor knot right here, at least the start of it. I haven't dressed it down because I want to show you kind of what it looks like. So basically the way I tie it is I start off by just tying an overhand stopper. And I know it's really hard to see, but I think I have a bunch of other videos. Hey, buddy. But I think I have a bunch of other videos on how to actually tie this. But this is just an overhand, simple overhand stopper knot on one end. And then what I've done is gone around the pole, and I've just taken the end with the stopper knot in, and I've tied another overhand around the opposite leg, just like I was tying half of a fisherman's knot. All right, so that's what they look like. And then when you tighten it down, see if I can do this one-handed. And when I tighten it down, that overhand here is going to lock around that leg. So then when I pull on that, it'll tighten and pull that stopper knot down to where it locks itself in place. I'm going to stay out of the shadow here. Locks itself in place there. So again, I tie an overhand in the end. Go ahead and pull that tight because that's your stopper. Then I go around the anchor. And there's my end now around the anchor. Then I'm just gonna isolate this opposite leg and tie an overhand around it. And I can pull it tight, make sure it's in my groove. Pull her tight, and it locks in place. Down here, this is where the Tipi poles cross. This is the north and south pole. This is the door pole. And I've got this marked so I know where they go. And I marked this out, you know, kind of how everything goes with some lengths of 550 cord, some paracord. Yeah, nice whipped and dipped end. So what I want to do here is pull up about 6 feet or more. I'm going to tie a clove hitch around all 3 poles. So I'll go over, come back under. There's my window. Under and through. And tighten those down. I need a little more length on that. If you don't know how to tie a clove hitch, I've got other videos on lashings that talk about the clove hitch. Maybe a little difficult to see on these larger ropes. All right, got about 6 feet of slack or so. Make sure those are binding nice. Now with this excess, I'm going to come around here a couple more times. Just wrapping around the bottom. Probably see if I got room for one more wrap. Nope. So 2 wraps it is, and then what I'm gonna do is finish with a clove hitch right here. Come over, back under. Here's my first half hitch. Then I need to come to the inside. To create those 2 parallel wraps with the diagonal locking bar, and I'm just going to dress that up. And I've got my clove hitch here. I want to finish that off with an overhand stopper. To keep things nice and clean up here at the top. Okay, so now we're at the tricky part. You know, folks that use these, you know, we're obviously on the plains, and I'm in the mountains. So, you know, step one, getting up in this type, getting up here in this type of terrain, you know, without the aid of other people, as well as a horse, that kind of thing. Not exactly the best. Then the next part is, you know, getting this thing up by yourself without the help of other people. I mean, I imagine that the community would work together to help get these up and then move on. So everybody work together. When you do it by yourself, you might have to get a little creative. So let me show you what I've got going on, and I'll tell you what the plan is, and then we'll see if that plan happens or if I have to do the alternate contingency emergency plans. Before I even laid out these tripods, you can probably see these stakes that have these different colored paracords on them. And they're color coded. So basically those are the exact length that those need to be away because they correspond with certain poles. You have the north and the south pole, which are here. And then this is the door pole, and the door is facing east. Pretty nice morning view, I must say. Other than the lawnmowers and the dogs barking all the time, this is a really great spot. Look at them clouds. So, door pole comes over and across the north and south pole. We've got the clove hitch, 2 extra wraps, finished with a clove hitch with an overhand stopper. I want to point out again how beautiful that dipped end is right there. And then it goes up. This is of course our tripod poles, which are the bigger poles out of the whole set. And then I've got the streamers tied on there. So with any luck, I'll be able to be on that end of this rope. And I'll pull these up to a spot to where they're kind of balancing barely. And then I've already driven a stake down into the ground. Ends want to just kind of slide as I'm pulling it, so I'm going to put some extra stakes in there, kind of hold them in place. They're just temporary. Because I've got to apologize for the drama and the suspense, as I actually thought that was supposed to be harder than it was. I seriously thought it was going to be harder than that to put the actual tripod up. The rest of this stuff is, I won't say it because then I'll jinx myself. I think the rest of the stuff's supposed to be easy. That'll do. all of my poles up except for one, which is the lift pole to put the canvas up. But what I got to do now is take that rope. I got to run around clockwise a few times and really whip that knot, whip it good. You know, whip that rope up in there to kind of tighten it up around all those loose poles and kind of tie them, wrap them into the tripod. Wrap it around the North Pole, and then I'll finish it off here at the bottom. That kind of a quick binding. Nice little clove with a stopper. It's Clove Hitch with a stopper. I want to bring your attention to the nice whipped and dipped end again. I got the poles up. I'm really happy about that. Really happy with how it looks. It's in a beautiful spot. But I can't put the skin on right now. I can't put the canvas on quite yet, but I have to make a ladder so that I can reach up and put the pins in. It'll make sense. But for now, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next installment of this Tipi series. Don't forget to check out the membership. You should be a member. No, I'm serious. Go check it out. greenberet.com/membership. Probably. You can find it. People don't believe me when I say they're forest chickens. They come all the way up here to come hang out with me while I make my bushcraft ladder. Where are you going, girls? I'm trying to show you guys off. Here they go. Half feral chickens running through the forest. Blinker's missing, but the other 5 are up here scooting around the forest. Okay, so I have been thinking about this for a while and started playing around with it to make sure it's going to work, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work. So I wanted to make a ladder, but I wanted to make kind of a cordage-free ladder using joinery, you know, joinery that you would see in carpentry or woodcraft, specifically the dovetail. So I wanted a cordage-free ladder. Of course, there's easier ways to do it. There's quicker ways to do it. I could make a half hitch ladder. I could use a ladder hitch. I could do any of that to make a real quick ladder, but I want a takedown ladder, cordage free, that incorporates a little bit of bushcraft into it. And then, you know, if everything goes right and this thing holds up, you know, I'll skin this, I'll put some linseed oil on it, and I'll keep using it. And if it breaks, then, well, you know, back to the drawing board. So what I thought is, you know, basically I'm going to take a couple of poles, and I'm going to cut these dovetail notches in it with my saw. Okay, and then what I'll do is, using an axe, is I'll cut the corresponding dovetail joint on the actual rungs, and then by design these rungs will fit directly inside there and create a nice solid joint. That's actually not fitted to that side. This one her is. I can slide that in that joint. Now I've got a solid joint here, and it won't come out the front, and it'll pop right back out, and I can take it down. So that's the concept. So I'll get started on this. Well, I've already started on it, but I'll show you how I got up to this point, and then we'll put it together and see if it works. And of course, the team here at GB2 will be mad at me if I don't mention, why are you not a GB2 member yet? If you're not a member, go get your membership. Exclusive content, live feeds, live Q&A sessions, 20% off everything across the store. That's all the gear, all the training, everything, all the time. It's like Black Friday every day for members only. All right, so for this, I'm just gonna use my axe and start cutting a plane. Cut myself a plane on there. Then I'm just gonna turn that and cut another angle. I've started bringing those together in kind of that triangle shape. I'm gonna bring it a little tighter together. That looks pretty good. Right there, still rounded at the bottom. So I'm gonna square that plane off. All right, that's not looking too shabby. I'll do some cleanup on that with my knife. Make sure I've got a nice flat plane on all three sides. That's pretty good. So this knife, this is the mini Puko. This is the GB2 Puko, but in a miniature design. It's a little guy, but it's perfection. I love this thing. They're not out yet. This is just a prototype, but they are being produced. They'll probably release later on this year. They'll be available for pre-order, I would say within a month or two. So keep your eye out on that. Make sure you're on my email list. I gotta do the same thing to the other side. Neighbor's got his beagles out chasing down some rabbits. So good for him. Enjoying his Labor Day weekend. So I'll get the questions in the comments, but this is the Woodcraft Camp Carver. Right, this thing is probably one of my favorite things. It's got a 16-inch curved hickory handle. It has a hardened pole on it, a hardened hammer pole, so you're not going to damage it with tent stakes or really banging anything you want to bang with it. It's basically a hardened hammer pole. It's got this little kind of like a beard happening here, this cutout, so you can choke up and actually do some nice carving with it. And I believe it's a 1.7 pound head. So a lot of folks ask me, you know, what axe do you need? Like, this is the perfect axe in my opinion until you get to a winter where you really need to put a lot of firewood down by felling trees. But for everything else, you know, it's a little larger than a hatchet, a little smaller than a pack axe. This is probably the perfect size in my opinion, and it's a really great tool. Probably my favorite axe. The only thing that I'll put this thing away for, honestly, is to go with a 24-inch Woodcraft pack axe, also from Council Tool. Both of them are made in the USA. Both of them are fantastic. So if you could only have two, then I would choose the Camp Carver for 3 seasons and the Woodcraft pack axe for winter time, basically. So yeah, just an incredible tool. Wouldn't be without it. Council Tools USA, they do a really great job, and they're not really all that expensive for what you're getting. So now you know, that's what this axe is. All right, now using the saw and the power of reading glasses, I'm going to cut my dovetail notch. All right, Silky Gone Boy. Somebody's gonna ask. Silky Gone Boy makes quick work of this maple. All right. If you can see that, I made sure they were reasonably well done. There's my score marks. With any luck, that'll pop right out. I took my knife and just cut right along that grain. You can see it wants to come out already. Let's just give it a little popping. Yep, she's hung up on somewhere, so I'll pop the other side. And a nice chunk out of that half. Just gonna fish out that other piece. And as you can see, I got a little cleanup to do in here, but not too much. Once I've got that carved out, I'm just gonna make sure that this fits. Let's see here, let's go about right there. Pretty solid fit, and I can trim that right off. That's in there pretty good. I'm happy, so got to do that a few more times before the mosquitoes eat me up. All right, time to do a little fit test here, just in case some things need a little more encouragement than others. I mean, that ain't bad. Nice and tight. All right. This top notch here is super ugly, but with any luck, we got it cleaned up enough to work. Looks like it. All right, so that looks pretty solid. Could have definitely done it better, I think. A couple of those notches didn't quite line up exactly how I wanted them, but I think it's going to work. I don't think exactly a wall hanger or anything, but question is, can I hold my weight? Suppose this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Is he about to fall down, or is he not? Has he been successful in creating his cordage-free dovetailed bushcraft takedown ladder working title? Yeah, it works. Woo! All right, guys, really appreciate you taking a few extra minutes this evening to watch me build what could be the ugliest ladder in all of bushcraft, but functional, and it will hold my weight. So I'm happy about that. And I'm happy about the TP progress. See you next one. All right, welcome back to the TP build, the TP series. So normally what I'd be doing now, because we have some rain coming in, but normally what I'd be doing now is skinning the TP, getting the canvas on it, lacing that all up, and then do the rest of the work I need to do inside. Especially with today, I'm trying to beat the rain today and get this all captured so that I can get it out to you in YouTube land. But I need to put a fire pit on the inside. And one of the coolest things about the TP shelter, especially in the wintertime, is being able to kind of get all cozy in your bunk, and then when the fire starts dying down, it gets a little chilly, and that's chilly enough to wake you up, and then you can just kind of reach over and put some more logs in the fire, and then you're back in business. Roll back over, go to sleep. So with that in mind, I could just put it on the bare ground, but since this teepee is kind of more of a semi-permanent type of structure, it's not a survival shelter, it's not a temporary thing. I don't want to do the fire pit that temporary. So what I want to do is kind of dig out a pit to kind of contain the coals on the inside. And I want to line that with some pretty heavy rock. And that rock will absorb the heat and release it back into the inside of the teepee as the fire dies down and it gets colder, and that'll extend the amount of time between me waking up and restoking it. So in order to film that though, in order to video that, really, I don't want to mess up the light by putting the shade on, even though the rain's coming in. So what I'm going to do is race to try to get this fire pit done, then I'll skin the TP, but that way you guys can see what I'm doing on the inside. All right, so I've got kind of dead center. I'm just going to kind of outline where I want my fire pit to be and see what kind of rocks I'm dealing with. All right, so I've got my basic outline done of about the size I want it to be, just kind of a draft. I'll change it based on the size of the rocks. Throw out a GP cloth so I can put all the dirt on that and haul it out of here. That load away, and I'm going to save a lot of this to help me set the actual stones in here. All right, so the hole is about what I wanted. I wanted about 6 inches deep because I've got about 1.5 to 2 inch rocks for the base, and then 3 to 4 inch rocks to kind of go around the side. I'm just going to pack those in, put it together like a puzzle. And another bug. I swear I eat more bugs on camera than anything else. You'd think I'd do that I'm doing it on purpose, but I'm not. Yeah, so I'm just going to piece all these together, and should have us a good, nice stone fire pit inside the teepee. right, guys, so I got my stone fire pit in. And, you know, it's not the prettiest thing, but we'll see if it's functional. I used some of the mud that has been forming because it's raining today. Use some of the mud as kind of a grout to kind of keep everything in place. But I'm not going to start the ceremonial first fire in the teepee until it stops raining and I get the skin on and all that. But I just wanted to get that knocked out before I got the skin on, because that would really make it hard to film, to video and share with you guys. So a little cricket in there. Right there. All right, he's gone. But anyway, yeah. So just a little fire pit in the middle of the teepee. That stone is going to absorb some of that heat and release it and keep me from having to get up all the time. Oh, I'll still have to get up and add. I say get up. I'll still have to reach out of my blanket and put a log on the fire, but it'll be less often. All right, so see you in the next one. All right, guys, got a little break in the rain, so I'm going to try to get this teepee skinned. So I laid out my pole here. This is my lift pole, and I got to attach the actual canvas to that, roll it all up, set it up, and well, you'll see what I'm doing. Just give me a minute. All right, so right here, I need to go ahead and secure, using this piece of cordage that I made, piece of rope. I need to secure this to the lift pole. What I'm gonna do is route through there. I'm gonna come around once, and then because the weight of this canvas is gonna want to pull down and make the teepee sag and get wrinkly. Nobody wants a wrinkly, saggy old teepee. I'm gonna come underneath to kind of lock that in place. And milk that out. I want that as tight as possible. And then finish her off with a right over left, left over right, square knot, or reef knot. And then, for a little added protection, drive a small roofing nail through this to keep it from sliding down. Need to get myself out of the way. Flip this over this side. Let's go ahead and take this right there. I'm just gonna tap it in. Just tap it in. Just give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, taparoo. There we go. That'll keep that from sliding. I'm gonna fold in these sides in such a way to where I can roll it all up and lift everything up together. So I need to kind of reverse roll this. Go ahead and roll them spiders on up with it. Maybe not that spider. Same thing on the other side. This hair's been popping out so much, I think I'm gonna have to put it in the credits. Looks pretty cool in here, not gonna lie. So I gotta lace these up, but first I gotta get up to the top and actually tie those together. And I gotta run the lacing pins through and all that. And I'll do that from the outside, but just wanna show you kind of what it looks like in here. Got a lot of smoke, kind of residual smoke on here from Tipi times past, we'll say, but really excited to have it up to this point. A little bit of lacing up the front, a little bit of bushcraft ladder time. I do need a little, just a couple of pins, and then I don't need that anymore. And then I'll adjust all the poles, stick everything down, adjust all the poles, get it nice and tight, and we'll see what we're working with. Give me a couple lacing pins while I'm up there. I might not want to climb up that again. So, it's a wee bit shaky. I especially like that the pins and the canvas is wet from the rain today. Makes it a lot harder. If it looks dangerous, it's because it is. Don't try that at home. All right, so my smoke flap poles, I got to cut them to length at about 18 feet because it's a 16-foot teepee. I'm just going to go ahead and cut these off real quick. So I want these to be pretty blunt. So I'm just gonna crown these real quick. I hear the thunder. So this knife that I'm using, oh, that's nice. This knife that I'm using, that's just it's from the Craftline series. It's a Mora 510 all around carbon steel blade. It's really super inexpensive. It's a really good backup knife actually, and it's really good all around. This is one I like to use for skin and game, small butchering, processing meat and all that, but just it chews through wood too, like as Joe Price would say, it chews through wood like a beaver behind on its rent. So just an all around good blade, probably why they call it the 510 all around. So I have to agree, it's one of my favorite little blades. That looks good. Go ahead and hit this one. And this just protects the canvas while it sits in that pocket on my smoke flap. Definitely one of the best all-around knives out there. Can't beat them more. Custom leather sheath. This custom leather sheath fits the 510 and the Companion HD. Get yours today. Available at Walmart. There's one. All right, so I've got the cover on. It's just kind of hanging there, you know, and I've got a nice uniform hang here, so I'm pretty happy with that. I've got my smoke pole flaps taut. So what I'm gonna do is go around and just adjust the poles a little bit, and then I'm gonna stake it down tight and then move the poles out and tighten the whole thing. So basically, I gotta get the poles out of the way so it doesn't tear or push against the canvas. Stake it all down nice and tight and then push the poles out against it. That way I'm not pulling it tight against the poles. You know what I mean. Well, she's up, she's tight, and she's gorgeous. She's got to set this pole here for the smoke flap. That'll do. That looks great. All right, guys, so that's where we're at for now. The Tipi's up, she's ready to go. The fire pit's inside. Nothing left to do but have a ceremonial first fire. Maybe do a little smudge melt with some sage. I'll have the wife put together a sage bundle and maybe do a bow drill fire in here, cook some chow after we smudge, of course. cook some chow in here. But for now, my kids have been waiting for a long time for me to get this up because I had to film. It took a little bit longer than planned, so they're just dying to get in here and play around. So I'm gonna enjoy this with my family for a while. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves outdoors and enjoying your family as well. Hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the woods.